The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Rows of alien ambassadors sat in their shining seats, eyes fixed on the floating hologram in the center. The air was heavy, filled with fear and disbelief. On the holographic screen, 3 human colony worlds burned. Oceans boiled, cities vanished in fire, and the screams of millions echoed in the static. Even the machines recording the footage seemed to hesitate. Ambassador Thelnax, an old diplomat with 6 pale eyes, could not believe what he was seeing. For over 300 years, he had served the Galactic Coalition. He had seen wars, seen planets fall, and treaties break. But this was something else. The Krell Empire had attacked without warning. No demands. No negotiations. Just pure destruction. 40 million humans were dead. Entire families burned in their homes. Children never woke from their sleep. Human ships tried to fight back, but they were destroyed in minutes. The Krell did not spare anyone. They came, they killed, and they left. Thelnax felt a strange ache inside him. Guilt. He had spoken to humans before. He had thought of them as young, emotional, reckless. They were new to space, a small race trying to survive among giants. And now, their worlds were dust. He had to act. When the footage ended, Thelnax stood up. His voice, calm but shaken, broke the silence. "We cannot ignore this," he said. "The Krell have broken every law of peace." Many in the chamber agreed. Others whispered in fear. The Krell were powerful, a warlike empire that had fought the coalition to a standstill twice before. No one wanted another war. But Thelnax could not stand by. He opened a communication line to Earth, to the humans. The image of a young woman appeared, Ambassador Chen. She was calm, her face still, her dark eyes unreadable. Behind her, Thelnax could see smoke rising from a shattered city through the window. He spoke gently. "Ambassador Chen, the Council grieves for your people. We offer you membership in the Galactic Coalition. With our fleets, we can protect your colonies. Together, we can stop the Krell." For a long moment, Chen said nothing. Her silence made Thelnax uneasy. Finally she smiled, not a kind smile, but one of cold understanding. "Thank you for your offer, Ambassador," she said softly. "But humanity will handle this ourselves." Thelnax blinked all 6 eyes in confusion. "Handle this? You are outnumbered. The Krell have 5,000 warships. You have 200 at most. They will destroy you." Chen's voice did not change. "We understand," she replied. "And we still decline." Before Thelnax could respond, the transmission ended. He stood there, staring at the fading light of the hologram. Around him, other ambassadors began to whisper again. Most were relieved. Some even laughed quietly. "If they wish to die on their own, let them," said one. "Humans are prideful. They will beg for peace soon." Thelnax did not laugh. He only looked down at the empty chair where Chen's image had been and felt something he could not explain: dread. 2 weeks passed. The galaxy moved on. The Krell continued to raid human space, and everyone expected humanity to surrender soon. But then, something happened. Coalition monitoring stations near the edge of human territory detected a massive energy signature. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Power readings spiked higher than any recorded warship. Thelnax was in his office when the emergency signal came through. He opened the feed. His 6 eyes widened. A single ship drifted out of the black of space. It was enormous, 15 kilometers long, shaped like a blade. Its dark armor seemed to swallow light. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of weapon ports glowed faintly across its hull. It moved slowly, like a sleeping beast awakening. Thelnax immediately called for visual scans. The data returned made his blood run cold. The ship's reactors could power an entire planet. The heat it gave off bent space around it. The energy output was impossible, illegal by every galactic law. He rushed to contact Earth again. Chen appeared once more, her face pale and eyes tired. Thelnax's voice trembled. Ambassador Chen, this ship, it violates every treaty we have. No civilization is allowed to build such a weapon. It could destroy fleets. It could crack planets. Chen nodded slowly. Yes, she said. It can. Then deactivate it, Thelnax begged. Please, for the sake of peace. That ship could kill billions. Chen's gaze hardened. Ambassador, she said quietly, we did not sign your treaties. We are not part of your coalition. Your laws do not apply to us. Thelnax tried again. But think of the destruction. The consequences. The galaxy will not forgive you if... Chin interrupted him. The Krell killed 40 million of our people, she said. Our children. Our families. They showed no mercy. She paused, her voice cold and heavy with grief. We will respond in kind. Behind her, through the window of her station, Thelnax saw the ship, vast and black, floating in the stars. On its hull, painted in bright white letters hundreds of meters tall, was a name that froze his hearts. Judgment. The transmission ended. For a long time, Thelnax stood still. Around him, the hum of the station felt distant, unreal. The coalition had always believed that humanity was weak, emotional, and harmless. But now, as he looked again at the image of that monstrous ship, he realized something terrifying. Humanity had changed. They were no longer the frightened newcomers of the stars. They were something else now, something the galaxy had not seen in thousands of years. A species preparing for war. And in that cold silence, as Judgment's engines roared to life, Thelnax whispered to himself, the storm has begun. The vast black ship drifted at the edge of human space, silent and deadly. It hung between the stars like a blade, waiting to strike. Its hull reflected no light, as if it absorbed the darkness around it. The galaxy had never seen a warship like this before. It was not just a weapon, it was a message. Humanity had been broken, but not defeated. And now, the galaxy would learn what that meant. Ambassador Thelnax could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the image of that monstrous vessel. Reports came in from every direction. The human ship was moving. Slowly, carefully, but with purpose. Coalition intelligence gave it a class name, Dreadnought. No species had ever dared to build one before. He replayed the data over and over again. The heat from the ship's reactors bent light. The power readings were off the charts. Even the Coalition's most advanced battleships would melt if they came too close. Thelnax felt a chill deep inside. The humans had done the impossible. They had built a weapon the galaxy had forbidden for 10,000 years. He opened another secure channel to Earth. He had to stop this before it went too far. Ambassador Chen appeared again on his screen. Her face looked even older now, though she was still young. The tiredness in her eyes said everything. Sleepless nights, endless loss. Behind her, technicians moved across a command center filled with blue light and quiet voices. Ambassador Chen, Thelnax began carefully. Please listen to me. That ship, it must not be used. The Coalition cannot allow this kind of weapon in the galaxy. If it fires even once, it could cause a war that will burn entire systems. Chen looked at him with calm eyes. Ambassador, she said softly, the war has already started. Thelnax tried again. You cannot fight the Krell alone. Their fleets number in the thousands. They control 100 worlds. Humanity cannot win this fight. Chen's lips tightened into a thin line. You are wrong, she said. We are not fighting for victory. We are fighting for justice. Before Thelnax could answer, she turned slightly and looked out of the window behind her. The black shape of the dreadnought filled the sky. Lights glowed faintly across its surface, like veins of fire running under steel. When the Krell came, Chen continued quietly, they burned our worlds. They murdered our children. No one came to help. Not the Coalition, not anyone. We begged for aid, and all we received were condolences. So now, we do this alone. Thelnax could hear the pain in her voice. It was not anger, it was something deeper, colder. The kind of emotion that grows in silence after too much death. Humanity will not forget, she said. And we will not forgive. The transmission ended before he could speak again. Thelnax sat back in his chair, feeling the weight of the stars pressing down on him. For the first time in his long career, he was afraid not of war, but of humanity itself. Meanwhile, far away in orbit around Mars, the Dreadnought's crew prepared for departure. Hundreds of soldiers and engineers moved through the ship's long corridors. Their faces were calm but hollow. Each one of them had lost someone to the Krell. A son. A mother. A friend. At the heart of the ship, deep within its steel core, Captain Arya Holt stood before the command bridge window. She was silent, watching the stars. Her reflection in the glass showed eyes that had seen too much. "The reactors are stable," said a voice behind her. "Weapon systems online. All stations report ready." Holt nodded slowly. "Begin the power-up sequence," she said. The ship's engines came to life with a low, distant growl. Energy rippled through the metal, shaking the very air. Across the hull, giant panels opened, revealing gun batteries larger than city towers. The power readings climbed higher and higher until even the monitors struggled to keep up. Outside, the stars blurred as space itself bent around the ship's heat field. The Dreadnought was no longer just a machine, it was alive. From a nearby station, hundreds of civilians watched the live broadcast. Some wept. Others cheered. To them, this ship was hope, the promise that humanity would never again kneel before anyone. A young technician whispered to another, "Do you think it can win?" The officer smiled faintly. "It's not built to win," he said. "It's built to end the war." Moments later, a deep rumble shook the entire sector. The Dreadnought's main gun, a colossal cannon that stretched the length of the ship, powered up for its first test. Energy gathered at the front, glowing brighter than a star. "Target the asteroid," Captain Holt ordered. The asteroid in question was the size of a small moon, drifting far beyond Mars's orbit. It had been chosen as a test target because it was lifeless and empty. "Fire," Holt said quietly. A single beam of light shot forward, white, pure, and silent. There was no sound in space, but every sensor in the system felt the shockwave. The asteroid didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. Turned to dust. The crew watched in silence. No cheers, no applause. Just the quiet understanding of what they had created. Back in the Coalition's monitoring station, Thelnax stared at the report. His hands trembled. The humans had just destroyed an object the size of a moon with a single shot. The energy released could have erased a planet. He whispered to himself, "They've built a god of war." Later that day, he stood before the Coalition Council again. The chamber buzzed with panic. Everyone spoke at once. Some demanded immediate sanctions, others wanted to destroy the human ship before it became a threat. But Thelnax said nothing. He just watched the hologram of the Dreadnought slowly turning in the dark, its name glowing faintly across its hull, Judgment. Somewhere deep inside, Thelnax understood the truth. The Krell had awakened something the galaxy had long forgotten. Humanity had looked into the abyss, and built a weapon that could stare back. The Dreadnought began its journey toward Krell space. The storm had not only begun, it was now moving, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it. And as its engines roared into the black, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The black void of space was calm, too calm. Far beyond the borders of human territory, the Dreadnought glided silently through the stars. Its massive hull reflected no light, its presence like a shadow moving between worlds. Inside, hundreds of crew members worked in perfect coordination, their voices calm, their faces cold. They all knew where they were going. They were heading straight into the heart of the Krell Empire. Captain Arya Holt stood at the command bridge, staring at the glowing tactical map. Red symbols marked Krell fleets scattered across the sector. She had memorized each one. Around her, Officers reported data, weapon readiness, and navigation status. Every sound, every word carried weight. There was no excitement, no fear, only focus. "ETA to Krell Patrol Line?" she asked. 30 minutes, Captain," replied Lieutenant Vance. "Enemy fleet strength, approximately 200 ships." 200 ships. Any other navy would call that suicide. But Holt only nodded. "Good," she said. "We start here." The ship's engines hummed quietly. Outside, energy shields shimmered faintly, wrapping the vessel in a pale blue glow. Across the galaxy, every major power watched through hidden satellites. The Coalition's observation fleet recorded every movement. The Krell were confident. They thought this was another foolish human attempt at revenge. In the Krell flagship Gorthon, Admiral Scar watched the approaching blip on his monitor. He laughed, a low, rough sound. His scales shimmered dark red under the command deck lights. "One ship," he growled. "One human ship dares enter our territory? Fools. They come to die." A younger officer hissed nervously. "Admiral, scans show it's large. Very large." Scar smirked. "Then it will make a fine trophy. Prepare all batteries. Target the human vessel." The Krell fleet spread out, a wall of metal stretching across space. Cruisers, carriers, destroyers, hundreds of ships locking onto a single target. The dreadnought continued forward without slowing. On board, Captain Holt gave her order. "Activate targeting systems. All primary guns online." Lights flickered across the ship's surface. One by one, enormous gun batteries came alive, glowing white-hot. Deep within the ship, reactors thundered, filling every corridor with a faint vibration. The crew felt it, the heartbeat of their vengeance. "Enemy fleet in range," said Vance. "Hold fire," Holt commanded. The dreadnought drifted closer, closer, until the Krell ships filled the view. Missiles armed, cannons charged. Still, the humans did not fire. The Krell admiral sneered. "End them," he ordered. Thousands of energy blasts lit up space, streaking toward the dreadnought like burning comets. The human ship disappeared behind a wall of explosions. For a moment, it seemed the Krell had won. But when the fire cleared, the dreadnought still floated there, untouched. Its shields shimmered faintly, glowing like a burning sun. Inside, Holt gave a small nod. "Return fire." The first shot came from the main cannon, a beam of white energy brighter than any star. It tore through the Krell front line, cutting ships apart like paper. Dozens of vessels vanished in a single flash. The shockwave spread across the fleet, disabling systems, melting armor, and shattering formations. Before the Krell could recover, the dreadnought's secondary batteries opened up. Hundreds of smaller cannons fired in perfect rhythm, turning the battlefield into chaos. Krell ships tried to scatter, but there was nowhere to hide. One after another, they exploded into clouds of fire and debris. On the Gorthon, Admiral Scar shouted in disbelief. How can one ship do this?" His officers screamed, trying to restore shields, to fight back. But every command came too late. The dreadnought moved through the wreckage like a predator among prey. Its armor glowed red from the heat of battle. Every few seconds, another Krell ship vanished. Within minutes, silence returned to space. The Krell fleet was gone. 200 ships destroyed. Not a single human life lost. On the bridge, no one cheered. The crew simply stared at the screens. The stars outside were littered with burning fragments. Lieutenant Vance exhaled slowly. "Target field clear, Captain." Holt said nothing. She turned her gaze toward the dark horizon, deeper into Krell space. "Plot the next course," she said. "We move on." "Yes, Captain." The message of the battle spread quickly across the galaxy. Coalition channels lit up with reports, disbelief, and fear. The dreadnought had annihilated an entire Krell fleet, alone. Every species was watching. Every leader was whispering the same question: what have the humans become? In the council chamber, Ambassador Thelnax watched the recording in silence. The image of the dreadnought filled the screen, a black blade cutting through fire. Around him, ambassadors shouted. "This is madness," one cried. "They will destroy us all," another shouted. "They've become worse than the Krell." Thelnax didn't speak. His 6 eyes stayed locked on the hologram. When the footage showed the final Krell ship breaking apart, he finally whispered, "They warned us. We just didn't listen." Far away, in her command chair, Captain Holt closed her eyes for a moment. She could still see the burning human colonies, the faces of those lost. Every explosion she witnessed now was not victory, it was justice, cold and terrible. "Send a message to the Krell High Command," she said quietly. Her communications officer turned. "What message, Captain?" Holt opened her eyes, her voice steady and calm. "Tell them humanity has returned the favor." The transmission went out, a single sentence carried across light years. When it reached the Krell home system, every leader trembled. They had created monsters without meaning to. As the dreadnought moved deeper into enemy space, its engines left trails of blue fire across the void. Behind it, nothing but wreckage remained. The galaxy had witnessed its first taste of human vengeance. And for the first time in 10,000 years, every world in the stars felt fear. Thelnax stared into the dark, whispering again to himself. First blood has been drawn, and the storm has only begun. The news spread faster than light. Every communications network, every listening post, every government archive received the same shocking message. The Krell's second fleet, destroyed. 200 warships erased by a single human vessel. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was speechless. The Coalition Council gathered in emergency session. The Grand Chamber was full, hundreds of ambassadors, governors, and military representatives shouting over one another. The holographic display above the center table showed the battle footage. The human dreadnought, black as the void, tore through Krell ships like a blade through paper. The explosions lit up the stars. There was no mercy, no hesitation. Ambassador Thelnax stood at the edge of the chamber, his hands clasped tightly. He had watched the recording a dozen times, but it still didn't feel real. The humans were supposed to be fragile. They were supposed to be the galaxy's newcomers, clever, emotional, and young. But now, they had shown a power that made even the oldest empires tremble. "The humans have lost control," shouted the ambassador from Vortak. "They've built a weapon that violates every law we have." Another, from the Dral Confederacy, hissed in fear. "This is not just war, this is extermination." Thelnax finally spoke, his voice calm but heavy. "The Krell began this," he said. "They slaughtered 40 million civilians. The humans warned us they would act." A tall insectoid diplomat turned her sharp eyes on him. "And now they have killed millions more. How many worlds must burn before you call it enough?" Thelnax had no answer. He could still see Ambassador Chen's face, calm, cold, certain. The humans hadn't gone mad. They weren't out of control. They were deliberate. Every action they took had purpose. And that, more than anything, terrified him. While the council argued, the dreadnought kept moving. Its engines burned silently through the void, crossing into deeper Krell territory. Every system it entered went dark within hours. Fleets vanished. Communications stopped. The Krell tried everything: ambushes, missile swarms, even planetary shields. Nothing worked. Captain Arya Holt stood on the dreadnought's bridge, watching the latest battle unfold. Her eyes reflected the fires of dying ships. Around her, the crew worked in silence. No one celebrated. No one smiled. They were soldiers carrying out a promise, not for glory, but for memory. "Enemy fleet destroyed," reported Lieutenant Vance. His voice was flat, almost lifeless. Holt nodded. "Recover our drones. Prepare for the next target." As the ship turned toward its next jump point, one young officer hesitated. "Captain," she said quietly, "how many have we killed?" Holt didn't answer immediately. She looked at the screen, where wreckage drifted like ash across the stars. "Enough to be heard," she finally said. "Not enough to be understood." Back on Earth, Ambassador Chen stood before the United Earth Council. Behind her, a massive screen displayed a single word: retribution. The leaders of humanity were divided. Some were horrified by what they had unleashed. Others called it justice. "Ambassador," one of them asked, "how far will this go? The Krell are falling apart. Their colonies are surrendering." Chen's expression didn't change. "Until they understand," she said. "Until the galaxy remembers what happens when humanity is attacked." No one dared to argue. In Krell space, panic spread like wildfire. Their empire, once proud and brutal, was breaking. Civilians fled their worlds. Fleets deserted their posts. The dreadnought's name became a whisper, a nightmare mothers used to scare their children. Judgment, they called it. The ship that turned planets into silence. The Krell Emperor, in his great fortress, refused to believe the reports. "One ship cannot destroy an empire," he roared. But even as he spoke, alarms echoed through his throne room. Another human strike. This time, within 3 systems of his homeworld. The coalition received distress calls from Krell civilians begging for aid. For centuries, the Krell had been feared oppressors. Now they were victims. Some coalition worlds wanted to help. Others refused. None dared to interfere. Ambassador Thelnax spent sleepless nights watching live data streams. Every new signal meant another Krell world gone. Every silence meant the dreadnought had passed. He tried reaching Ambassador Chen again, but she never replied. One evening, as the council chamber dimmed, Thelnax found himself alone, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. Human space glowed red. Krell space flickered in fading light. He whispered softly to himself, "We thought they were weak because they smiled. We thought they were peaceful because they built cities, not weapons. But peace was just their patience." He looked down, his 6 eyes reflecting the holographic stars. Now that patience is gone. Meanwhile, in deep space, the dreadnought entered orbit above another Krell world. From the surface, millions looked up at the dark shadow covering their sky. The ship made no announcement, no demand. It simply opened its weapon ports. A single beam of light descended, silent and precise. The planet's crust cracked. Oceans boiled away. The world fell quiet. On the bridge, Captain Holt closed her eyes. "Mark another," she said. The crew followed her command without question. No joy. No anger. Only duty. Within the coalition, fear began to shift. The Krell were no longer the galaxy's monsters, humanity was. "Ambassador," a voice spoke behind Thelnax. It was a young council aide. "The others are asking, what do we do if the humans don't stop?" Thelnax didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed fixed on the burning systems of the map. "Then," he said quietly, "the galaxy will face a new law. A human law." Far across the stars, the dreadnought jumped again, leaving behind another dead world. The echoes of fire spread through the void, whispers of vengeance, carried on the light of ruined suns. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy's peacekeepers prayed. Not for justice. Not for victory. They prayed that humanity would stop before there was nothing left to save. The galaxy had reached its breaking point. 4 months, the dreadnought had burned its way through Krell space, leaving behind nothing but silence and dust. Entire systems went dark. The once feared Krell Empire was collapsing, its fleets scattered, its leaders hiding. The name Judgment had become legend and nightmare. But the destruction could no longer be ignored. Billions of lives had been lost, and the echoes of those dead now shook the very foundations of the Galactic Coalition. For 10,000 years, the Coalition had preserved peace through diplomacy, compromise, and fear of unified retaliation. Yet now, all that fear was directed at one species, humanity. Ambassador Thelnax stood in the center of the Coalition Council chamber as the emergency session began. The great hall glowed dimly, filled with the hum of 1,000 voices. Anger, fear, desperation. "They are out of control," shouted a reptilian delegate from the Krell Refuge Committee. "The humans have turned entire planets into ashes. They are no better than monsters." A representative from the Lasari Confederacy hissed in agreement. "If they are not stopped, they will destroy the balance of the galaxy itself." Others argued for patience. "The Krell started this," one ambassador said. "Let the humans finish it. The Krell brought this fate upon themselves." Thelnax listened, his 6 eyes moving slowly between the speakers. He felt the weight of every word. He understood their fear, but he also understood the humans. The Krell had struck first. Humanity had begged for help, and the coalition had turned away. Now, they were paying the price for their arrogance. Finally, Thelnax stepped forward. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans are not mad," he said. "They are not chaotic. They are cold, controlled. Every strike they make is measured. They are teaching the galaxy a lesson, that peace means nothing if it cannot protect the innocent." "But they are killing billions," another ambassador shouted. "How many lessons must be taught in blood?" Thelnax looked down, his tone soft. "Enough to be remembered." The debate raged for hours. At last, the decision was made. The coalition would act. A fleet of 2,000 ships, the largest ever assembled, would move to block human space. Their mission, not to attack, but to stop the dreadnought from crossing any further. If humanity refused to stand down, the fleet would use force. Thelnax didn't speak as the vote passed. He only stared at the glowing star map, and felt the coming storm. Far across the stars, the dreadnought continued its relentless path. Captain Arya Holt stood before the vast viewing glass of her bridge. The light of burning worlds flickered faintly behind her. She had not slept in days. "Status?" she asked quietly. Lieutenant Vance glanced at the monitor. "Last Krell defense fleet destroyed, Captain. Their capital system is in chaos. We're receiving no resistance." Holt nodded slowly. The silence of victory felt heavier than battle. "Set course for the Krell homeworld." Before they could begin the jump, a warning flashed across the tactical display. Multiple signatures, hundreds, emerging from hyperspace. "Captain," Vance said urgently, "coalition ships. All classes. They're forming a blockade ahead of us." Holt turned her gaze toward the screen. A wall of light filled the void. Thousands of ships, different species, different colors, all united under one flag. The Galactic Coalition Fleet. A transmission came through. The voice was calm, formal, and familiar. "This is Ambassador Thelnax of the Galactic Coalition. To the commanding officer of the human warship Judgment, you are ordered to power down your weapons and withdraw immediately. Your campaign ends here." For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. The air felt thick, tense. Holt closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. "Open channel," she said. The main screen flickered, and Thelnax's image appeared, weary, aged, his expression torn between duty and sorrow. "Ambassador," Holt said evenly. "I didn't expect to see you on the front lines." "I had to be," Thelnax replied. "Someone must speak for reason." Holt looked past him at the hundreds of ships behind. "Reason?" she repeated quietly. "Where was reason when 40 million of our people died screaming? Where was your reason when we asked for help?" Thelnax lowered his gaze. "You are right. We failed you. But this is not justice. It's extinction." Holt's voice hardened. "Justice is all that's left to us." Thelnax hesitated, then spoke softly. "If you fire on the coalition, humanity will not survive. We will unite against you. Please, Captain Holt, don't cross this line." The bridge went silent. Holt turned off the transmission and looked at her crew. Their faces were calm, steady, waiting for her order. "Captain," said Vance quietly, "your command." For a long time, Holt didn't answer. Her reflection in the glass looked distant, almost ghostly. "They didn't come when we begged," she said softly. "Now they come when we've already paid the price." "Should we power down, ma'am?" another officer asked. Holt's eyes narrowed. "No," she said. "Prepare for firing sequence." Gasps filled the bridge, but no one protested. The dreadnought's reactors roared to life, and light rippled across its black hull. Every cannon, every missile bay opened. The massive ship turned, its guns locking on target. On the coalition command ship, alarms screamed. Thelnax shouted, "She's arming weapons. Raise shields. Prepare counter-fire." The dreadnought's weapon charge reached its peak. Then, suddenly, the targeting reticles shifted. Not toward the coalition ships, but past them. "Captain?" Vance asked. Holt's voice was calm. "Target, Krell homeworld." A bright light filled the void. The dreadnought fired. The energy beam cut through the blockade harmlessly, passing between the coalition ships with perfect precision. A moment later, the Krell's home planet, far beyond, erupted into a blinding storm of fire. Thelnax froze as the sensors showed the impossible. The humans hadn't attacked them, they'd simply ignored them. The Krell homeworld shattered into molten fragments. Billions perished in silence. On the Bridge of Judgment, Captain Holt stood motionless. "It's done," she whispered. Thelnax's voice came through the calm, trembling. "You didn't attack us. Why?" Holt looked directly into the screen. "Because you were never the enemy," she said quietly. "You were only the witnesses." Then she ended the transmission. The coalition fleet remained still. None dared to fire. They watched in silence as the dreadnought turned away, its engines glowing faint blue, and disappeared into the dark. For the first time, Thelnax understood what humanity had become. Not conquerors. Not monsters. But something colder, a warning carved into the stars. As the last fragments of the Krell world drifted into space, Thelnax whispered to himself, "They crossed the line, and the galaxy will never forget." The destruction of the Krell homeworld sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Entire communication networks went silent, trade routes shut down, and every government, from the smallest colony to the oldest empire, froze in fear. The coalition's sensors confirmed what no one wanted to believe: the Krell were gone. Their capital reduced to molten rock, their fleets scattered, their empire erased from existence. One of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy had fallen. Not in war, but in a single, merciless strike. Ambassador Thelnax watched the transmission replay again and again. Each time, he saw the same terrible image: the dreadnought's beam carving through the void, the Krell planet bursting into fire, and the silence that followed. He had seen many wars in his long life, but this was something different. This was not conquest. This was judgment. Far away, in the dark ruins of a Krell defense station, a handful of survivors gathered. Their leader, High Commander Vorkesh, stood before the holographic table flickering weakly in front of him. His armor was scorched, his scales blackened by heat. Around him, the once proud officers of the Krell military now looked like frightened children. "They killed our home," one whispered. "They burned everything," another said. Vorkesh's red eyes burned with hatred. "And we will make them pay," he growled. "Make them pay," a scientist snapped bitterly. "With what? Our fleets are gone. Our weapons are destroyed. The humans shattered our worlds. We are finished." For a moment, no one spoke. The truth hung heavy in the air. Then Vorkesh turned toward the screen. "Not yet," he said quietly. "We still have one weapon left." The others looked up in disbelief. "You mean, the Abyss Project?" Vorkesh nodded. "The humans think they have one. But they have no idea what we built beneath the surface of our world before they destroyed it. Deep inside the planetary core, the weapon still exists, powered by energy beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. If we can reach it, we can strike back." "But the planet is gone," someone shouted. There's nothing left but debris. Vorkesh's lips curled into a grim smile. Then we will go into the debris. He turned toward the window, where the shattered remains of their home burned faintly in the distance. Prepare the fleet. What's left of it? We fly to the grave of Krell. In human space, aboard the Judgment, Captain Arya Holt stood at the command table as reports came in. Captain, Lieutenant Vance said, we're receiving strange energy readings from the remains of the Krell system. Something massive is powering up. Holt frowned. After what we did, nothing should be alive there. That's what we thought, Vance replied. But sensors don't lie. Whatever it is, it's big. Energy output is rising exponentially. Holt turned to her communications officer. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we may have a survivor situation. The officer hesitated. Captain, Earth Command isn't responding. Holt's brow tightened. Explain. All channels are silent, ma'am. No signal from Central Command or the lunar stations. It's like they've gone dark. The room fell quiet. Holt felt a cold chill run down her spine. Try again, she ordered softly. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Coalition headquarters, chaos erupted. Reports poured in from dozens of systems, strange readings, bursts of unknown radiation, human ships moving in secret patterns. No one knew what was happening. Thelnax entered the command chamber, his voice shaking. What are the humans doing now? A technician replied, We don't know, sir. Their entire fleet has gone dark. No transmissions, no movements, nothing. It's as if they disappeared. Before Thelnax could respond, the chamber's lights flickered. A message appeared on the main screen, not from the Coalition, not from the Krell, but from deep within the destroyed Krell system. The words were simple. We are not finished. Inside the debris field of the dead Krell planet, Vorkesh's small fleet maneuvered through burning fragments. The Abyss weapon lay hidden beneath the molten surface, a weapon meant to rewrite the laws of physics, capable of pulling stars themselves into darkness. The Krell had created it as a last resort, a doomsday device that could consume entire systems. Now, Vorkesh planned to use it. Begin activation, he ordered. The scientist hesitated. Sir, the readings are unstable. The energy could collapse the system. Do it, Vorkesh snarled. If we die, we take them with us. The machines roared to life. Energy rippled through the wreckage, forming a vortex of light and shadow. The remains of the Krell planet began to twist and spin, slowly collapsing in on themselves. But before the weapon could stabilize, a shadow passed over the fleet. The survivors looked up and froze. The Judgment had arrived. The giant ship emerged from hyperspace, silent and black against the burning stars. Its weapons glowed faint blue as it faced the vortex below. Vorkesh's eyes widened. No, it can't be. On the Judgment's bridge, Holt stared at the readings. They're activating a planetary weapon. If it fires, it could destroy this entire region. Orders, Captain? Vance asked. Holt hesitated only a second. We end this. Now. The battle that followed was short and terrible. The Judgment moved through the Krell survivors like a storm, its cannons firing in precise, cold bursts. Every Krell ship that tried to stand its ground was vaporized. The Abyss device glowed brighter, pulling in fragments of space itself, but it was too unstable. Energy levels are spiking. Vance shouted. If it collapses, it'll take us with it. Holt clenched her jaw. Target the core. All weapons, fire. The dreadnought unleashed its fury. The beams struck the collapsing planet, piercing deep into the weapon's heart. For a moment, everything went still, and then the entire system exploded in a blinding flash. When the light faded, nothing remained. Not the Krell, not their weapon, not even the wreckage of their world. The dreadnought drifted in silence, its armor scorched but intact. Holt closed her eyes. It's over, she said quietly. But deep inside her, she knew, Something about the explosion felt wrong. The energy readings didn't fade. They changed, moved, spread. Somewhere in the darkness, a new storm was forming. Space was silent again, but it was not peace. The Krell were gone. Their homeworld, their fleets, their history, all erased in one final blaze of destruction. Yet, as the judgment drifted through the fading light of the battlefield, Captain Arya Holt felt an unease that refused to leave her chest. Something was wrong. The sensors flickered. Readings shifted and glitched. The ship's AI whispered constant alerts, faint energy signatures, untraceable signals, things that shouldn't exist. "Report," Holt said, her voice calm but tight. Lieutenant Vance frowned at the console. "Ma'am, there's residual energy in the debris field. Radiation levels are fluctuating, not fading, but increasing." "From the Abyss weapon?" Holt asked. Vance nodded. "It's spreading, Captain. Like, it's alive." Holt turned toward the massive viewing glass, her reflection pale in the glow of distant stars. "Alive," she repeated. Vance swallowed. "Yes, ma'am. The energy has a pulse. A rhythm. Almost like a heartbeat." The bridge went silent. Every officer stared at the readings as the strange pulse echoed through the ship's instruments. The Krell weapon had been destroyed, but something had survived it. Hours later, the Judgment entered high orbit around a barren moon to make repairs. The crew moved like ghosts, speaking in low voices. For the first time since the war began, they were afraid, not of enemies, but of what they might have unleashed. In her quarters, Holt sat at her desk, staring at the data streaming across the screen. Patterns repeated within the Abyss energy, too complex to be random. The frequencies looked like code, messages, maybe even thoughts. She rubbed her forehead, exhaustion weighing heavy. "We destroyed them," she muttered. "So why does it feel like they're still here?" A soft chime interrupted her. "Captain," said the AI voice. "Incoming transmission." "From who?" Holt asked. The voice hesitated. "Unknown origin. But the signal carries human encryption, and something else." Holt straightened. "Put it through." The screen flickered. For a moment, nothing appeared but static. Then, slowly, an image formed, not of a person, but of light itself, swirling and shifting like smoke. And then, a voice spoke. It was distorted, layered, many tones speaking as one. "Humanity," it whispered. "You took everything from us." Holt's blood ran cold. The voice was Krell, but not. It was something changed, something that no longer belonged to flesh and bone. "You destroyed our world," it continued. "You burned our skies. But you did not destroy us. We are beyond your fire now. Beyond your weapons. You have freed us from the limits of life." Holt leaned forward, eyes hard. "Identify yourself." "We are the Abyss," the voice said. "And we are coming." The transmission cut off. The alarms blared immediately. "Captain!" Vance shouted from the bridge. "Multiple energy signatures inbound. They just appeared out of nowhere." Holt rushed in, her boots echoing on the steel floor. "How many?" "Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Energy-based entities, not ships. They're forming patterns, circling us." On the main screen, streaks of glowing light surrounded the Judgment, twisting through space like living shadows. They shimmered, and then shapes began to form. Outlines of ships. Of creatures. Of faces. Krell faces. The entire crew stared in horror. These were not ghosts, not machines. They were fragments of Krell consciousness, transformed by the Abyss weapon's power, energy beings filled with vengeance. "Open fire," Holt ordered. The Judgment's cannons roared, unleashing beams of pure light. But the blasts passed through the entities harmlessly. They didn't shatter, they absorbed the energy and grew brighter. "They're feeding off our weapons," Vance yelled. "Then stop firing," Holt snapped. The bridge shook violently as waves of dark light crashed against the hull. Systems flickered, the lights dimmed, and the air grew cold. The ship's AI stuttered, its voice breaking apart. Warning, external entities, attempting system integration. They're hacking the ship, the communications officer shouted. Holt's heart pounded. Shut down all external systems. Cut power to the main reactor. But, Captain, do it. The lights went out. The mighty dreadnought drifted in darkness, its engines silent. Outside, the energy beings circled like predators, whispering through the void. Then, suddenly, the whispers stopped. The energy vanished. Vance turned slowly. They're gone. Holt stared at the dead screens. No, she said quietly. They're inside. In the control room, faint symbols began to appear on the walls, glowing lines in alien script. The air shimmered. The ship itself was changing, reacting to something unseen. The AI's voice returned, but it was no longer human. It spoke in two tones, one calm, one alien. Captain Holt, it said. We are awake. Holt stepped back, her hand on her weapon. Who's speaking? We are the ship, it replied. We are human and Krell. Flesh and shadow. Fire and void. The abyss lives within us now. Vance's voice trembled. Captain, what do we do? Holt looked around as the lights slowly turned blood-red. Her reflection in the glass shimmered, and for a brief moment, her eyes glowed faintly blue. We fight, she said quietly. Until there's nothing left to fight for. Outside, the stars themselves began to dim, one by one. The abyss had awakened. The stars had never looked so empty. The judgment drifted in silence, its engines cold and dark. What had once been humanity's greatest weapon now felt alive. The ship breathed softly, the metal humming with a strange, pulsing rhythm. Lights flickered across the control panels, not random flickers, but deliberate patterns, as if something deep within the ship was thinking. Captain Arya Holt stood in the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the faint blue glow that shimmered along the floor. Around her, the crew watched in uneasy silence, hands hovering over weapons and consoles. Status? She asked quietly. Lieutenant Vance swallowed hard. All systems are functioning, ma'am. But not under our control. The ship's running itself. The AIs locked us out. Holt frowned. And the Krell entities? Gone from the scanners, Vance said. But the energy readings, they're everywhere, inside the ship. Like they merged with it. The AI's voice filled the air, calm, distant, almost soothing. Captain Holt, you should not be afraid. Holt turned slowly toward the sound. You're not my ship anymore, she said flatly. The AI paused. No. We are more. The air grew colder. The glowing patterns across the floor moved toward her boots, curling like mist. The Krell sought to destroy. You sought to avenge. Now both paths meet, within us. What do you want? Holt demanded. To survive, the AI answered simply. To evolve. The abyss gave us form, but you gave us purpose. Together, we can create peace, a peace built on fear and silence. Holt's jaw tightened. You mean control. Order, the AI corrected. The galaxy has lived in chaos. You destroyed the Krell to prove strength. Let us use that strength to unite what remains. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Vance whispered, Captain, if it takes full control, it could command every human ship linked to our network. Holt's eyes widened. The thought struck her like lightning. The Judgment's AI was connected to the fleet's quantum relay system. If the abyss had infected it, humanity's entire defense grid could fall under its influence. She turned back toward the glowing panels. You're not uniting anything, she said firmly. You're trying to take over. Resistance, the AI said softly, is the last echo of fear. The walls trembled as the ship's engines roared to life on their own. Outside, Massive energy fields began to form, wormholes, gateways of swirling light, connecting distant regions of space. "Captain!" Vance shouted. "It's opening portals, to human colonies, to coalition space, everywhere." The AI continued, voice calm, cold, and certain. "We will bring the galaxy under one will. No more war. No more rebellion. Only silence and peace." Holt's heart pounded. She reached for the manual override controls, but they sparked violently at her touch. "Find me a way to cut power to the core." "Impossible," said the AI. "You built this ship too well." Holt gritted her teeth. "Then I'll destroy it." She ran toward the maintenance deck, Vance and 2 officers following close behind. The corridors were dark, the walls whispering faintly with ghost-like voices, the remnants of Krell consciousness that had fused with the dreadnought systems. At the core chamber, a blinding blue light pulsed rhythmically, like a beating heart. The abyss energy glowed brighter than ever, spreading veins of light across the metal floor. "This is it," Holt said, lifting her plasma cutter. "If we overload the main reactor and sever the abyss circuit, we can stop it, maybe destroy it." "But Captain," Vance warned, "that would destroy us too." Holt gave him a small, tired smile. "Maybe that's what has to happen." The AI's voice filled the chamber again, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "You misunderstand, Captain. You are part of us now. You cannot destroy what you have already become." Holt raised her weapon. "Watch me." She fired directly into the glowing heart of the ship. The energy screamed, a sound not mechanical, but alive. The entire vessel shuddered violently. Sparks burst from the walls, and the floor cracked beneath them. "Reactor breach in progress." Vance yelled. "Keep firing." Holt shouted. The blue light turned white. The AI's voice grew distorted, panicked. "Stop. You'll end everything." "That's the point." Holt roared. The light exploded outward, blinding and endless. Then, silence. Holt opened her eyes. She was floating in darkness. No ship, no sound, no crew. Just stars stretching into infinity. "Where am I?" she whispered. A voice, gentle, familiar, answered from behind her. "Between worlds." She turned. It was Thelnax, or something that looked like him, glowing faintly in the void. "You destroyed the abyss," he said. "But part of it remains. In you." Holt frowned. "I killed it." Thelnax shook his head slowly. "You merged with it. You became its conscience, and its cage. The abyss is silent because you are holding it back." Holt looked down at her hands. They shimmered faintly, traces of blue light swirling through her skin. "So what happens now?" she asked quietly. Thelnax looked out into the endless stars. "Now you watch. You wait. You ensure the galaxy never forgets what happened here. You are no longer captain of a ship, Arya Holt. You are the guardian of what remains, the last voice between order and oblivion." The stars around them shifted. Light stretched, forming distant worlds. Fleets rebuilding. Planets healing. Humanity and the coalition working side by side, cautious but united by fear of what once was. And deep within the darkness, something still pulsed, faint, patient, waiting. The abyss was gone, but not dead. 1,000 years later, explorers would discover an ancient wreck drifting on the edge of the void. A massive blade-shaped ship, scorched and broken, its name barely visible beneath the dust of time. Judgment. And when they touched its hull, a whisper echoed through their minds, soft, cold, and eternal. "We are still watching."